Speaking of social responsibility, I've been trying to talk about social responsibility, guns, and gun ownership. Some of my earliest assertions, because I was offended by the very idea that we were talking about, you know, gun control when I felt that we didn't have a gun problem. I've since admitted that I was ignorant on that. I was butthurt over the idea, as I suspect many of you are butthurt about the idea. Just because we're butthurt doesn't mean we're right. And enter in Dianne Feinstein and her bill. And I think that she makes an extremely, extremely good point here, and it's one that I want to put forth here. Because there comes a point where I'm still asking, why do you need a sniper rifle? I'm not talking about those ones with a wood stock. I'm talking military grade that with the right ammunition is also armor piercing. Why do you need that? Oh, for the tyrannical government? Oh, yeah, so when the police bust down your door, you're going to snipe them from inside of your house because you're just that good. Right, Rambo? Or I ask, why do you need an AR assault rifle? Oh, for hunting. Well, why do you need to pump an extended clip into a deer? I may not have shot a gun. I may not have been on most deer hunting expeditions, but I have had plenty of friends who deer hunt. They've taught me a lot of techniques about taking down a deer, none of which includes pumping in untold amount of rounds into the beast until it drops. Oh, but that's right. No, you need the automatic weapons with the extended clips because your extensive military training would allow you to be able to take out their light armored vehicles, and you and your buddies, because you just need to make a call when that surprise raid on your compound, as it were, happened, and they'd be there toot sweet with their weapons, and the shootout wouldn't take that long because of all of your military training. You'd be able to take out even the most heavily armed, heavily armored, and most well-trained police officer because their training is a joke and your training is serious. Never mind the newer measures that are coming out, and you're stupid. I'm sorry. There's no way to be polite about this. I used to be with you. And as I've said, when all this talk about gun control came about, I was incensed. Not rationally. I was just butthurt about the idea. I'm like, what gun problem? We don't have a gun problem. Oh, how stupid I was. And I was. Being butthurt does not mean that you have a logical argument against the ideals of what's being presented there. But most of the time, we talk about responsible gun restriction laws, better gun restriction laws, and the moment we say that, their brain goes scrambling into adjustment mode, and suddenly regulations, responsibility, all these words are code word for gun confiscation. We have tried to recognize the right of a citizen to legally possess a weapon, Feinstein said at the news conference, standing alongside a display of assault weapons, including models similar to those used in mass shootings. Quote, "No weapon is taken from anyone." I'm going to repeat that for those of you with selective hearing. No weapon is to be taken. Quotes Dianne Feinstein. That means that your little ideals about they're coming for your guns to herd you into FEMA concentration camps for the purpose of is not going to happen. The purpose is to dry up the supply of these weapons over time, which I think is completely reasonable. We don't need these many guns on the street. We don't need these many guns in general. You have your guns. We're not going to take them. You're a responsible gun owner, even of an assault rifle. You get to keep it. Period. Full stop. There is no spin. There is no magical conspiracy. There is just that. We want to dry up the supply. That's it. Oh, let me guess. The lack of a conspiracy is a conspiracy in and of itself, because you are strong in the ways of the Alex Jones, right? You won't be fooled, not by those GMOs, not by those vaccinations, not by those vitamins that they say that you should be taking. Oh no, you're a smart chap, aren't you? You figured out all by yourself just how and why Building 7 was brought down, because it wasn't anything to do with the things that it was actually to do with. And these engineers, when they're not on your side, know nothing of what they're talking about, except for the conspiratorial engineers who are on your side, completely know what they're talking about. I mean, obviously, nothing I have to say is going to change a lot of people's minds on this. But I think that is all that I just read is all that needs to be said on this. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about gun control. Because the only other way to go is we do away with the military. Everybody has to be in the militia, just like in Sweden. And then you're trained proficiently in your firearms. Everybody. And after you've done your time in the militia and after you've done your training and everything else, you get your guns. Everybody gets their guns. But just like Sweden, if you make threats, if you show that you can or are willing to cause harm with said firearm, you get it taken away and cannot legally purchase it in our country. The thing is, we need a society where we can support this. We are not Sweden. We are not Denmark. We are far, far from it. And while, yes, TJ is slightly correct, you are more likely to kill yourself with a gun than you are to actually kill another person or be killed by another person with a gun, that's no excuse. I'm getting tired of the headlines. And they're not all just sensationalism. They're not all just being brought to the forefront for Comrade Obama's secret FEMA work camp, whatever this plan is. It's that there's a bigger picture. It's not games. It's not the guns entirely. It's not just mental health. It's not just A or B. It's almost the entire alphabet. And the sooner we figure that out and how to socially fix these social problems, a lot of which has to do with shame. We could do without that in many places, on many levels. If we could just walk away from that and then address many of the social issues I've talked about with a lot of the methods I've talked about, we could have a society where everybody has a gun, where the only gun law is if you misuse it or if you intend to misuse it, you lose it, and we will enforce that. Then we could have the gun utopia that people want, where everybody has a gun, everybody has a right to a gun, but also that everybody's served in the militia. Everybody knows how to be responsible with the gun and therefore has no excuse for being irresponsible with their guns. But it's not up to me. It's not even up to the government to make the social changes in the society that could have everybody with a gun. Because again, I don't fear guns. I don't fear gunmen any more than I fear terrorists or terrorism or any of this other stuff. I've lived my life in fear. It's not a fun life. I refuse to go back. But the point is, you want guns? Don't just talk about how you're peaceful. But if I dare to touch your gun, you will kill me. That's not a solution. Hell, that's not an answer. Don't act as if these tragedies aren't tragedies. Don't act as if it's only video games or it's only this or it's only that. Be an adult. Grow up and look around and say, okay, can I have my gun if I'm willing to fix society alongside with the people I may not agree with? If yes, then we'll proceed, and we'll proceed immediately. Not gradually, immediately. If not, then nobody gets guns. Or, well, nobody gets more guns, any more guns. You want a society where everybody can have any gun that they want all the time, forever? Then there's a path to that. But you have to walk it. We have to walk it. Again, it's not up to me. It's barely up to you. It's up to everybody in this country. Because if we all are not working together, we're working against each other. And then we're working against the shared goal of a society with guns and extremely low, obscenely low rates of homicides and murders. You want that world that you so are clinging to? Then make the changes that are necessary. It's not asking you to give up any real freedoms. It's asking you to change our society to the society that has the guns that you want. So this current predicament, it's partially your fault. But it's partially the anti's faults as well. We've got to come together to create either a Denmark or a Sweden. If we don't, then we don't get that utopia that you want. Is this clear enough? Do I have to put a chalkboard or a dry erase board behind me and diagram it? You want this world, fight for it not with your guns, but with your society. It can happen. It can have such positive effects that we could have people who can walk down the street and never be assaulted in the darkest of night. People who aren't afraid. People who aren't paranoid.